Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my June wrap-up part 2. Now, the stats will be for the next few minutes, so if you don't want to listen to that boring bit, skip past the next sort of 3 minutes or so. But, as you would have well seen from the doodah thumbnail, I'm not really making much sense because I'm recording this ridiculously early. I smashed it again. So, I read 37 books. 36 were off my TBR. As you would have seen from my book haul, which went up on Friday, I only bought 24 books and I was gifted 3. So I added 27 books onto my TBR. I unhauled 4 unread books. So here is the big stat. This is the one that I am screaming about. June's unread TBR was 418 books. July's unread TBR is 405 books. I reduced my unread TBR by 13 books. My goal was to get down to 400 books, 400 unread books by this end of the year. I'm only 5 off that now. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get, because obviously in July I know that I'm going to be doing a few bookshop sort of treats, but I think as of September I'm going to treat myself to let myself read some borrowed books. So I've got a load of borrowed books from my mum and some friends and people that I'm going to start letting in so that I don't have to worry about dropping. I still want to drop my unread TBR, but I want to do it gradually now, and I'm going to put, the pressure is coming off me a little bit. I still want room on my shelves. That's why I like to shift the books off my unread TBR, but I'm not going to be as stressed. So that's going forward into sort of, I think sort of September, October time, I'm going to sort of maybe read a few more borrowed books and try and do that, because I've got a load of borrowed books on my shelves that I've borrowed of people that I've had for a while. Kind of need to get them back to people really. So that's something that's going forward, but obviously towards the end of the year I've kind of got to stop that as on November and December, because obviously Christmas there is a good chance I'll get more books. Anyway, that's a bit of info. So now to the genres. I only read 1 thriller this month because I don't have as many thrillers, and I'm a bit of a wobble. I need to find some good thrillers and sort of through my thrillers on my doodah. You know, the tri-chapter thing. So I only read 1 thriller this month. That's fine. I read 2 non-fiction books. I read 3 classics, 5 fantasy, guys. 5. I was well happy. I was really, really impressed by that. And the next shock is I read 13 historical fiction and 13 contemporaries. So there was no set winner this month. I literally split it. On the negative side, I had less higher star ratings. I had 2 2-star ratings, 1 2.5-star rating, 5 3 stars, 6 3.5. So that sort of side of it's not as good. I think it was 11 4 stars, 2 4.5 stars, and it's either 9 or 10 5 stars, because when I was looking through my books, I forgot that there's one book on this list that I actually had on the shelves, Rebel Rose. So that's kind of a sneaky peek. That's going to be on my 5 stars. So that's my star rating. So there was a lot less. If I compare this month to last month, like this month I only read like 9 or 10 5 stars. Whereas last month I read 14 5 stars, and I read 5 4.5 stars, whereas this month I only read 2.5. And then it's similar sort of 4 stars, but the higher star ratings were a lot less this month. And it felt to me like this month was a lot harder. I didn't read anywhere near as many good books, in my opinion, this month. So going forward into July, I want to sort of try and be a bit more mood ready and a bit more, not stop trying to get books off my I don't know what I did wrong this month, but I didn't pick books that were particularly fantastic, so I'm a bit annoyed at myself. But it's always a growth spurt, it's always sort of change and things like that, and I know that going forward I can sort of make that better. I can pick a few better books. So, but I've cleared a lot of books on my shelves. I've got so many books to take to Baz Books, so where I work, so yeah, and I've only got 3 weeks left. By the time this goes live, I think I've got 2 or 3 weeks left before the kids break up for the summer holidays. So better get reading, better get chilling. Anyway, this has been a long ramble now. So now to show you the books, because I'm recording this before I go to Baz Books, I don't want to talk too much about the books. got a busy day today. Anyway, I'm recording this on the 30th, so all the books were finished last night. Or there's actually one book that I will show you when I need to show you that I will be finishing today, but I've already star rated it because I've nearly finished it. So that's an average star rating. Okay, so here we go. So the first 2-star was The Lilac Bus by Me, Vinci. One of the other booktubers that I watched didn't like this, and it turned out they were right. Oh, yeah, that was Laura from Book Bubblers. She read The Lilac Bus and didn't like it. I didn't. It's a set of short stories, really boring, really didn't connect. Go bye-byes. I've definitely discovered me, Vinci is not for me. She really isn't. Now for the book that it was supposed to be a buddy read with Danny. Which you'll well see from this pile. Danny's book read, yeah, that didn't happen. So we both started The Essex Serpent. Danny was sensible. Within 2 chapters, she DNF'd it. I should have done. It was flipping pants. I made myself read it because I thought that I would like it. It was supposed to be a mixture of historical fiction and fantasy. I counted it historical fiction. Set in London 1893, when Cora Seaburn's husband dies, she steps into a new life as a widow, with much as relief as sadness, and she retreats to the countryside with her son. She encounters the rumours of the Essex Serpent, a creature folklore has said has returned to roam the marshes. I found this boring as did not enjoy it, really didn't like it. It's just like, bye-bye. Not for me whatsoever. I'm glad to clear that off my shelves. Now for my 2.5-star book, which I was gifted last year by someone, and it's just not for me. I was going to send this to Gem from Gemma Books, but I don't even think she'd like it. It was set in South Africa in the 1900s, in a land riven by war, and a husband searches for his son. It was okay-ish, but do you know what? I don't know how much of that I read and I took in. It was just not my kind of book. The writing was very male-orientated. You can see it was written by a man. And it was just not for me whatsoever. So that is another one. Bye-bye. I did not like it. Now for my 3 stars. And you know with me, 3 stars are okay. For me, 2 stars I did not like. 2.5 stars I didn't like, but they had something in it. There was something in it that was the storyline, I think was the father bit, which was what rated it, gave it an extra ½ star, The Last Horseman. 3 stars is I liked it. I don't know how much I'm going to remember it in the future. And it was all right. So my 3-star book first one was Liverpool Lou, and this was set over a long period of time, sort of starting in the war sort of time, starting in the Second World War. Babsy has always worked hard to provide for her family. She runs a greengrocer's publicly and a money-lending business in private. She's taken in her niece Louisa, whose mother is dead and father at sea. Basically, this book covers a long period of time, but it is very emotional and it has a lot of death in it. So going forward, that is the trigger for that. There is a lot of death, a lot of sadness in this book, and I found that emotionally challenging. So bye-bye. The next one, I'm sorry to say, is only 3 stars because I thought the TBR jar had done me good. We all know what the TBR jar done for me in July. Evil Mia. I didn't like it as much as I've liked a lot of the fantasy, but middle grade fantasy, and this just wasn't as good in my opinion. The train to impossible places. So this girl goes on the train to impossible places. You've got the baddies, but there is some twist in this that I didn't expect. There's talk about trolls and Susie's world is turned upside down. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. So sorry, I'm not keeping that. It's all right. Now the next one is 3 stars, and it's a YA book, and I know that a lot of YA people in the young adult era have rated it a lot higher, 4 or 5 stars. But for me, my age has probably turned me on. What is it? I'm pretty old. This is very hard. It is tackling depression and anxiety, and it tackled depression in a very high, and grief very highly. So you've got Theo French, who wants to take his own life. That alone is telling you there's triggers in this. Violet Markey is marked by her sister's death, and then they meet on the ledge of a school bell tower, and their story begins. It's only together they can be themselves. But this is very hard-hitting, very emotional, and I didn't quite get where it was going, and I didn't quite connect with it, and I'm really sorry. It just wasn't for me. I wanted to like it, but it was so hard-hitting and so depressing that I found it really challenging. So next is the 3.5 stars. These were good. These were quite good. They weren't very good, but they were quite good. And for me, the first one was Bath and the Madding Crowd, which is my Thomas Hardy book. I am debating. This one is 3.5 stars, but I keep thinking it could be 4, because as much as it was slow and very slow paced, like all Hardy's books. I keep thinking about Bathsheba. So can I go around and change the star rating to 4? I think I might, because I really like Bathsheba Everdeen. She is a right cheeky beggar, and she is naughty. And at the start of this book, Gabrielle Oak proposes to her, and she's also got a humble sheep farmer, Frank Troy, a handsome and reckless sergeant. Oh yeah, Frank Troy is a handsome and reckless sergeant. Gabrielle Oak was a humble sheep farmer. We like Gabrielle Oak. Frank Troy is a handsome and reckless sergeant. Didn't like him. William Bolwood, a prosperous and mature bachelor. Each of them fancy her. Each of them have relations with her, and it's interesting to see that progress. I read it with supposed to buddy read it with Jem from Gemma Books, but that kind of again went off on one. But don't worry, I love Jem anyway. I love all my friends. But this is quite good. I really did enjoy it, so I'm going to keep that as my keepie. That's my first keepie. And then the next one is 3.5 stars. This is actually a second in a duet, and I probably should have read the first one, which is in my charity shop at the moment. But again, this is tackling grief in a very hard-hitting way, and I found that quite challenging. There's no family quite like the Hayes. When their youngest daughter Rabbit dies aged 40, they're overcome by grief. Despite their squabbles, their family know that there's only one way they'll get through this together. Without her beloved mum, 12-year-old Bunny is adrift. Without Rabbit, there can be no Bunny. And then you've got the siblings, and they're all their journey and their parents. It was good and very emotional, and I had to really, really be kind to myself when I was reading this. But again, there were certain bits that I got a little bit bored in, but in general, this was really well written. It's just, yeah, I can't read any more books on grief. I think I'm done in. It would be my dad's birthday on the 1st of August, so I'm finding books on grief probably not the best thing to read at the moment. And then the second one is the book that I'm going to be finishing today. At the moment, it's 3.5 stars. But this one actually could be 3.5 or 3, because it's all right. It's a romance. Very much like The Little Wedding Shop in the Tree. But I can predict that in the last 40 or 50 pages, I can predict the next twist. If that happens, and it's a bit of just a steady romance, it's all right. But this is 3.5/3 stars, so I don't quite know whether I might change that. So although that's the 3 stars, it might go down to 3.5. So 3.5 really could go either which way. They could be 3 or 4. That one, I think, the Far From the Wedding Crowd's going to go up to 4. This one, I think, might go down to 3. So, and now the 4 stars. And the 4 stars are fun books. The 4 stars are books that are great, good. I enjoyed them. Don't know how much I'm going to love them. But didn't love them enough that they're like, woo! But I really did enjoy them. They're really good books. They just didn't have that extra spark to get the 5 stars. And the first one is one that surprised me. It was one I buddy read with Alice, the 4 of the plays of Oscar Wilde. But the reason why it's 4 stars is because the first and the last play I loved, but the middle 2 were just okay. Like, they weren't the best. So I loved, where is the bit telling me which plays I'm reading? So we have got Lady Windermere's Fan. I bloody loved that. Thought it was fan-flipping-tastic. Would shout about it all the way. It was hilarious. There were some quotes in this that I don't even know if I kept the page. I'm really annoyed at myself. That literally about men not being... Oh, it's just a bit of a sexist kind of joke. But God, it made me and Alice crack up laughing. Loved that. A Woman of No Importance. That was quite good. It was all right. Not fantastic, but it was quite good. An Ideal Husband was boring. That was definitely boring. But then The Importance of Being Earnest, I loved that too. I really loved the first and the last. The second one was all right, but the third one was a bit meh. So if I was to rate them individually, I would rate Lady Windermere's Fan 5, The Importance of Being Earnest 5, A Woman of No Importance 4, and Ideal Husband 4 or 3.5. So that gives you some idea. But I love this. I'm actually going to keep this because it was really, really good. And I really, really enjoyed reading that. And I loved it in buddy reading with Alice. Because Alice did kind of keep up with me roughly on the plays. Roughly. And the next one was The Magic Finger, which is like a novella by Roald Dahl. It's 4 stars because I flew through it. It was actually one of his funniest books. And I really did enjoy the moral of this one. So, but that one's going to Thomas because Thomas is liking Roald Dahl now. So that's going to him. Now we've also got Always in My Heart by Pam Weaver, which is a historical fiction. Again, there are quite a few triggers in this. So if you want to know them, please let me know. But there are, I would say domestic abuse is the biggest trigger in this. When war is declared, Shirley and Tom are evacuated to a coastal town. They are close to their mother, but leaving London is the only way to keep them safe. Shirley is the brighter one of the pair, whereas Tom is somewhat slow to understand the world around him. This does tackle, I would say probably more it was a disability that happened because something happened when he was born. So that is written, but it is written tactfully as much as it could be. So the twins are very different, but Shirley always feels that she has to protect her brother. But when they're on the farm, some serious things happen on this. A bit of a murder mystery in this as well, and that's quite exciting. And the twins' new teacher noticed that something's not right with their children, and it's really good. Really did enjoy that. But it's not going to be a keepy because it is very hard hitting. I'm debating whether I keep this because my sister bought it for me for my birthday, and I'm not sure whether I'll keep it or not, so it's kind of on my debate. This is The Hasting Game by Sally Thorne. It is very, very saucy. Jem DNF'd it because I can totally see this is not Jem's book. It was slower paced. It wasn't like the 5-star that I was hoping it was going to be. It is definitely slower paced than I expected. The one long-standing rival and arch enemy, a person undoing, Joshua Templeman. But this does tackle harder hitting issues than you expect it to tackle. And I did like Lucy in the end. Lucy was a character that I didn't want to like because it was very standard romance. But I did like her. There's something she does at the end that made me crack up laughing. And she does grow in her strength. And she does stand up to Joshua. She doesn't take any crap. But there is it's quite a standard romantic tropey kind of book. I'm debating on that one. But I did enjoy it. I certainly enjoyed it a lot more. At the start, it was really hard to read, but then I did enjoy it more. The next one was one of the only Sarah Waters books I've not read. I'm going to probably read, just got The Little Strange to read, but this isn't her best one. It's set in like wartime. No, it's set in just after the First World War, so 1922, in a hushed London villa. Life is about to be transformed as a genteel widow, Mrs. Bray, and her discontented daughter, Frances, are obliged to take in lodgers. There is a bit of romance. There's quite a lot of sauce. LGBTQI plus book, so that's done and that's dealt with brilliantly as well in this. I really love that. Bit of sauce. It's really good. It is well written. There's a bit of some twists and turns that you didn't expect, but I didn't like the ending, so that one is definitely going because I didn't like the ending of that, I'm afraid. Now to my 4.5-star book, which was the one I read for my tandem read along. It was an ad PR product. It was not the best tandem read along because I found this book was quite slow paced, but it was very good. Like, it's one I definitely recommend to people that like historical fiction. I think my review's up on Instagram and on Goodreads for it. So it's set in the summer of 23 and it's literally set over the summer in Cornwall. And Esme Nicol goes away from her life in up north in Huddersfield, I believe, and she goes down to the coast to get to as a friend and compadre to a lady, sort of a servant kind of thing to this other lady. And when she's there, she stays with with Gilbert and his rambling seaside village where he lives with his former brothers in arms. And we do go back and forward in timelines. We go back to where the front line of the World War One in France and what happened to them then, and how it changed all of the men that were doing it. But then we also have Esme's storyline because she's lost her husband, and then there's some twists that you don't expect. Bit of romance, a little bit of Esme finding herself. It was a good book. Well done. I'm keeping that one. Keeping it. I might actually ask Gemma if she wants it. I'm not sure actually with this one. I think I might offer this to a friend. So I'll think about that one. It was good. Now to my 5 stars. I've got 4 really good 5 stars, and they are all amazing. There is one of them that's my favourite. You'll pretty much be able to guess. And I will tell you already that my other favourite for the month was a book from the first half, which is Catherine of Aragon, the One True Love, because I did love that. But the next ones are Maggie and Me, which is by Damien Barr, and it's Damien Barr's true story, set at the time when Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister. He is only 8 years old at the start of this book in Glasgow in 1984. He watches in horror as his mum rips off her wedding ring and packs their bags. As Thatcher takes hold of London, she snatches school milk, smashes the unions and makes greed good. Yet somehow, despite the rioting, strikes, AIDS and Clause 28, Damien manages to fall in love, dance to Madonna in Glasgow's only gay club, and discover that stories can save your life. Again, there is a lot of triggers going into this, so be warned, there is a lot of triggers. but this is so well written. I'm not going to keep it because it's very hard hitting and very emotional, but it is a very good book, and it's one that I will be recommending to everyone to get because it's that good. Next one is one by one of my new favourite authors, Heidi Swain. It was one of my seaside summer books, The Secret Seaside Escape. It's got disability rep in it. It's fantastic. I loved it. It's the first in the Winmouth series. I've got the Christmas book to read in the Christmas time. Tess Tyler needs a break. Weighed down by her high-pressure job and demanding father, she's left to take care of herself, but a shocking discovery sends her spiralling, so she flees to Winmouth, the seaside town she fell in love with as a child, in search of much-needed relaxation. I really enjoyed this. It was so good. It was really cosy seaside book, community, friendships, romances, disability rep, everything in this, and it was brilliant, and I loved it. So, but this is a keepy. Alright, our keepies there. Then the next one was one that really surprised me. It was Rebel Rose. Again, it was on my summer books to read because it's Rose, and then my Rose doesn't come up this year. And this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I thoroughly loved it. It's kind of like the retelling of the sequel to what would have happened after they got married and after he became a man again. Set in 1789, and France is on the brink of a revolution. It's more about the revolution, I would say, and Belle's action in that. And the Beast is called Leo in this book because that's and it's Belle's journey. Belle is again very prominent in this, and you see her journey where she sort of becomes the queen she doesn't necessarily want to be, and how she can fight. And I love her finding the fight. There is an LGBTQI plus twist in this. I'm not going to tell you where that is. There is the libraries in this. The Enchantress comes into it. You've got new characters. You see Lumiere and Cogsworth again, which I love. I thoroughly loved this. It was brilliant. I'm keeping it because I think Mia will love it. It teaches great historical fiction books. It's great retelling as the Disney princess gets to be feisty, and I love that. I really enjoyed that. And then last but not least, Mrs. England by Stacey Halls, which I was technically supposed to be reading with Danny, but she didn't get to pick to it. But I've told her she's got to read it. Right, you all know The Familiars was one of my favourite books from a few years ago. Did like The Foundling. This is joint favourite with The Familiars. It is fan-flipping-tozy. I've shown you a million times how gorgeous this book is. It's one of the most beautiful books I bought this year. I bought at the start of the year. Didn't know if I bought it at the start of the year or end of last year. But it's about Mrs. England, and not so much just about her, but there's a nurse called Ruby May who takes a position looking after the children of Charles and Lily in England. And there are some twists, and there are some family, there are some French. God, it's just like a thriller. It's like a thriller and a historical fiction all mixed in one. It is so flippin'-tastic. I love the 4 children she looks after. I loved Ruby growing in this book. I love Mrs. England. I didn't want to love her. I'm not going to tell you who I didn't like because that will give things away. But yeah, did not expect to love this as much. And I will buy all of Stacey Hall's books, probably in hardback because I think they're that gorgeous. So that's my wrap up. Are there any of these books that you like? Have I helped encourage you to read them? What has been your favourite book of the month so far? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling. And I just remembered, yes, this was my favourite of the month. This and the Catherine Aragon. Sorry about that. Knew I'd stuff up at the end. Hey ho, what was your favourite of the month? And I look forward to seeing you all in July. I hope you all have a great July. I hope Jane Austen's July goes well for people. They all find great books. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.